NBR columnist Brigitte Morten asks whether the government's proposed social insurance scheme will be the sleeper issue of next year's election. She joins me now. Now, reading your column, I get the sense you think that it might not be such bad policy, but it might not be great politics.
Yeah, I think there's absolutely, a question about whether or not we're providing the right sort of, let's call it unemployment benefit or structure for people, that are suddenly made unemployed, particularly in circumstances where you've got some mass unemployment. And the government points to, obviously, the pandemic and the Christchurch earthquake as also times when that sort of happened en masse and the government's had to react. So I think in terms of policy, it's not necessarily a bad thing to explore, but at the moment, it's really hard to make the political argument for it.
But the other thing around it, though, too, isn't it, though, that in terms of a lot of that work the government's been doing around the future of work, is that we know now with technology changes and what have you, jobs are changing much more quickly. And isn't it about trying to ensure a better crossover for people to move from one job to the next by providing training during that period that they might be out of work?
Well, you've currently got training available in the benefit scheme and the social welfare scheme. Anyone who comes off a job now and seeks assistance from the state will get assistance with training, with having that sort of cushion. It's basically a matter of degree. I mean, the key differences here is, at the moment, we're paying for our social welfare system as part of the mass, taxes that we pay. We don't really know how much of your taxes or my taxes are going into that. Under this scheme, we'll know exactly how much is going into it, but also we'll be entitled, depending on how much you earn now, to a considerably higher amount possibly than what you would be if you just went on a benefit. And so it just changes the dynamic quite differently to being something of just maybe perhaps a cushion to something that seems quite luxurious maybe in terms of what's currently available.
But also, I guess, with inflation still high and, showing no signs that it's going to be very low in the next year or two, I guess a government taking money out of people's pockets, even if it's for a good cause, if you like, is going to be a hard sell, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's similar-ish to GST in that the people that are going to be sort of affected most by, that amount of money going out of their pay packets, even though it's proportionate, are people who need those additional dollars to buy the groceries, to get the petrol. People on higher incomes with more disposable ability are going to not feel it as hard. So it is going to be those, the lower to middle income earners, the people that the government's saying they're most concerned about now, who are probably going to feel it the most if this starts coming out of their wages.
I mean, to be fair to the government, this was an issue that was driven initially, at least, by the Council of Trade Unions and Business New Zealand. And in fact, I heard Kirk Hope in that seat at the beginning of this year really promoting it and saying he hoped the National Party wouldn't play politics with it. But Business New Zealand's gone very quiet on this issue now. And do you think that's a signal to the government that it needs to perhaps back off as well?
Well, one of the things they talk about sort of in the column is the fact that I don't think the government has done a good job of bringing people with them on this and the need for it. And one of those examples, I think, is Business New Zealand, because they were on board as a possible concept. It is something that exists in other OECD countries. It's not a novel idea. So I think, for Business New Zealand, they saw how this would better protect, businesses and dealing with mass unemployment issues. But it appears, basically from what Business New Zealand has said, that the government sort of took that sort of tick at the beginning and just ran off with it and has not been consultative along the way. And I don't believe Business New Zealand currently supports the model as it is currently proposed.
If it continues with this proposal, what do you think then effect it will have on the general election? Do you think it's going to be a real negative for the Labour Party heading into that election?
Yeah, I think it will be, because it comes down to that fundamental issue of it's taking money directly out of your wage packet. It is less money for you to spend. And we know at the moment, and it's not that far away from the election, that this is most likely to be one of the core issues that people are going to feel is that cost of living. So they don't want to have really any policies that looks like it's going to make it harder for households.
So your political advice would be just drop it?
Well, maybe go slow a bit. And, the government has a record on slower delivery, so just add it to the pile.
Brigitte Morten, thank you for your time.
Thanks.